So
Carl Torello.
yes, and he's going to be joined by Ben Zacks.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Please,
Thank you.
please proceed.
Senator Maroney, Senator Ciccarella, Representative Ritigliano, and members of the General Law Committee. My name is Carl Torella, and I am co-founder of Butter Cannabis, a retail equity joint venture. Butter currently has locations in West Hartford, Danbury, soon to be Tolland, and 3 new locations in 2024. We appreciate the opportunity and to offer comments on HB 5150. First, we would like to offer support for the direction the committee has taken to address concerns with the shortage of cultivators under the existing Section 149 framework. As others, our operations have been challenged with a supply shortage, which is driving up prices and making it difficult to compete with surrounding states. The cannabis consumer is very sophisticated and loyal to certain strains and brands, and shortage can and does result in loss of customers looking for something specific to their needs. Given this, we agree that it is important to offer alternative paths for those Section 149 cultivators who have been unable to get up and running under the provisional licenses. However, we urge the committee to consider A, moving up the date for the moratorium for granting provisional Section 149 cultivator licenses in Section 9 from December 2025 to December 2024, and B, to specifically require that a Section 149 applicant must have a final license prior to opening a separate equity joint venture. We understand there needs to be some time to assess conversion applications, but we believe significant time has passed for existing provisional license to determine whether they can make it work or need to pursue an alternative path. Time is of the essence as the market is already challenged due to delay. Further, it is an imperative that we close off unintended loopholes. The intent of the 149 license was to build cultivation in the state, but we now see that Section 149 licenses are opening other verticals, such as dispensaries, without having operating cultivation facilities, and in some cases, without even starting construction. Butter also would like to speak to an issue that's not in the bill, which is respectfully request the committee to consider. As an equity joint venture, we believe our social equity applicants are disadvantaged by being held to a 7-year moratorium on ownership transfers. 7 years is a long time in any industry, and we fear that this time frame can disincentivize certain social equity applicants who may prefer to be party to a change of ownership earlier in the process. We believe that this holding period should mirror the 3-year holding period required for the social equity lottery winners, and we ask that the committee consider adding this language into the legislation. And then also in my written testimony, I just wanted to state that I do agree with the DCP and their RP or in the pharmacist stance. So I'm not going to go into that, but we do agree with their testimony on that. So thank you for your time today, and I'll pass it over to Ben.
Hi, thank you. My name is Ben Zacks. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Fine Fettle. Fine Fettle, we believe we are Connecticut's cannabis company. We had 3 medical dispensaries that are now hybrid. We have opened equity joint ventures. We've completed our social equity plan. We immediately, upon 5 days, as we attested to, paid $3 million for our cultivation facility. And we have worked and mentored and partnered with social equity operators across the state. And we do also agree with the direction of this bill, but believe that there are some key structural issues for the success of the market, creation of jobs and entrepreneurs, especially social equity entrepreneurs. And Connecticut's market is probably 30 to 35% less of what we expected. And the outputs and outcomes of new businesses have not come in part because of market conditions, in part because of the economy. And that's had a huge impact on jobs, revenue, and success. And so we agree with, by and large, what Carl said, and appreciate his letting me chime in with him. But 2 key, really key points that I want to hit on is the goal of the Section 149 was to build cultivation, and then later equity joint ventures were added. Folks are simply not building their grows. Some are even paying the $3 million, opening dispensaries, don't have space, don't have a location, doing nothing to push forward, and our market is strapped for supply, and they're exacerbating the issue, which is having huge issues on the market, and also sending people to Massachusetts and other states to purchase product at a much lower price and much more available. Additionally, we actually really like the opportunity for those who haven't been able to pay the $3 million to have different access into the market by partnering with hemp. and or by paying a reduced fee and getting a micro cultivation. However, those should not be stepping stones to take advantage of what we believe is a gift. And so if folks do that option, we agree that they shouldn't get equity joint ventures. But also, if you're going to have a micro cultivation, you shouldn't be able to pay less, have a lower cost of entry to build, and then just be able to expand as the micro cultivators do. So we believe that if you do keep this approach to allow folks to step down to a micro, that their canopy limit is capped. We've had incredible success operationally, this industry. I'm really proud of all of our co-operators that we haven't had issues with traffic. We haven't had issues with legal product getting into hands. There haven't been more driving issues. We've created hundreds and hundreds of jobs across the state and tons of tax revenue and put that back into the town and then been good corporate citizens using our social equity plans, partnering with nonprofits and bolstering social equity entrepreneurs who have pushed into the market. And so we put in written language to change some of these pieces, and we have other pieces in our written testimony. But Carl and I, our teams and our companies and our groups, we are operators. We're doing this every single day, understanding the market and working across boundaries to ensure a success for safety, access, and patient care in the state using this really unbelievable plant. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Online, Mr. Chairman. We have Rep. Ali Brennan.
Okay, Rep. Ali Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Carl. You spoke of your experience with medical patients and your concerns with the use of telehealth. I was just curious if you could elaborate more there, why you still oppose this, despite the fact that you have a hybrid facility yourself.
Sure. So I've been in cannabis for 7 years, and I chose cannabis to affect people and to really be on the ground to see what cannabis can do from the power of the plant. I used to operate 3 medical facilities. My second week on the job, I heard a cancer patient tell me, or a cancer patient told me that they had hope for the first time in 18 years, right? So those types of things happen day in and day out, and seeing how patients open up and interact to pharmacists from on-site experiences, from breaking down to something about their family, to understanding their kids, to really alleviating, to really being part of their journey, it is just going to be lost when that goes to telehealth. I mean, there's no such thing as a personal connection and that is over Zoom or anything like that. So we are happy that the DCP took the stance of removing or stating that they would hope that the pharmacists keep on site. And even though that we do have a hybrid license coming on, and it's going to cost us more operational money, we really do think that the medical market needs it, and the preservation of the medical market is key to our business.
So I'll just chime in as well. So Fine Fettle, we operated the 3 of the first 7 hybrid licenses. We employ 14 pharmacists across our stores. And one of the realities of adult use coming in is we have incredibly trustworthy team who focuses on inventory. And part of the touch with patients has been lost. And part of that is operational. And part of that is by need and demand and how many folks we can staff. I'm not sure what the right operation is, but the flexibility to ensure that there's access to the pharmacist is really, really important. And so while we're not necessarily exactly aligned here, we want to ensure that pharmacists are running our hybrid facilities, that they are always available to patients. And however we can make them most available, most actively, and most on time is key. It can take time for our pharmacists to be available to the patients because of the change in operational flow. And so, while I'm not exactly sure how it would look, the most important thing is that Connecticut's program and Connecticut's operators get the best access to medical practitioners, because not only do our medical patients use the pharmacists, so do our adult use customers. 92% by the studies of people coming into our facilities are purchasing with a health and wellness benefit. And that's in our adult use customers as well. That's not just the medical patients, where 100% are. And so having optionality for the access to be quickly into a pharmacist, we think is really, really, really important and is for the good of everyone who actually comes into our facilities. We have 3 hybrids now. We're opening a 4th in Bristol, and we want to ensure that that access is there to give unbelievable customer service, because at the end of the day, we're a customer service business, whether it's for patients or the general public above 21.
Thank you. I think it's important to highlight, what we heard earlier, as well as your testimony regarding that. And just one more question, Mr. Chair. Carl, I know you mentioned briefly in your opening statement that you talked about aligning the change of ownership holding period for EJVs with that of social equity lottery people. I just wanted to see if we could expand more on that. Just curious to hear more about that.
Sure. So there are 2 really key determining points on this, and one is at a macro level, right? 7 years is an eternity in any industry. I mean, and then in cannabis, it's even longer than eternity. So I've been in this business 8 years now in cannabis. I've seen multi-billion-dollar companies, hundreds of $1 million a company, and then your local mom and pop shops who are doing great, and then something happens in the market in year 2, year 3, where they're out of business. They weren't prepared, right? So I think it's doing a disservice to our social equity owners to really have that time frame in that respect, right? We want to shorten the time frame to make it in line with the social equity lotteries, right? You're doing a disservice to our social equity owners. And then secondarily, because of this unintended loophole, right, of the Section 149, we're seeing a huge saturation of retail, right? And a huge saturation of retail ultimately devalues the license holders of our facilities, right? The more competitors that are in the market, like any business, will devalue, but we're seeing that rapidly happen faster because of this unintended loophole with the Section 149 license.
Right. And if we're trying to build a program that can create generational wealth for social equity owners, generational wealth is not being created by a business that's taxed at 28% on gross margin, not on gross margin, right? Because we can't deduct anything at the federal level. And so if the non-social equity owner of the licenses or a business says, I'm going to sell, but oh, my social equity partner, you're left behind. And so you can't have the exit for a longer period. Who are you ultimately helping, especially as we've seen over time valuations move down in the industry, and that's been on the public stocks, that's been in private ownership. And 3 years we think is a reasonable time because it allows for the social equity partner and the business to really get up and running, to understand, to get its feet, to see the market get someplace. But 7 years is really long. None of us know exactly where any industry is going to be in 7 years. I mean, in 3 years of this, with just 1 year of us being open, we're constantly adjusting and changing this bill. But we have seen what happens to the outcomes and valuations of these businesses over time. And for the opportunity to create wealth for these entrepreneurs, change and opportunity is key. And so that's why we think changing from the 7 to 3 to actually be at the same exact time as the grow licenses, the 149, which is 3. So it actually creates consistency between the 2 types. And especially since most of the equity joint ventures are retail, and it takes an incredibly long time for the grow to actually get up and running, people might be able to sell off their grow before even being operational. I mean, we're 18 months in, there's 1 outdoor grower open. Now, we're under construction. I have no idea about anyone else. But if you're going to hold that for another 5.5 years for folks, just on these EJVs, it's an incredibly long time, and it's detrimental to only the social equity owner and entrepreneur.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments. Appreciate you both testifying, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Thank you, Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I need help understanding the benefit to the social equity applicant from 7 years to 3 years. How does that benefit them specifically? Because in one instance, you have stability. 7 years, you have to work with me regardless. If you changed your mind, you don't like our partnership, you have to work with me for 7 years. Tell me the benefit to the social equity applicant by moving it to 3 years. You said maybe they decide that it's up to them to move over, and so they have that option?
So they can't. So conceivably, the non-social equity partner can sell their piece, and then the social equity partner ends up with a new partner, right? So if it's a 50-50 partnership and someone comes to me and says, Ben, I want to buy you. And we say, all right, great. I'll take the exit. But now the social equity partner can't. And now they're put in with a new partner who they didn't know. Our social equity partners, we've known for a minimum of 25 years. I mean, it's been in the newspaper. One was my babysitter, right? Growing up. Like he's seen good and bad, right? A lot of bad. Elementary school Ben. But but the truth, so like they're with me. And if the business though is still going and we don't get that option, the stability is actually still there from years 3 to 7. It just gives the optionality for before. It doesn't say, oh, you have to sell at 3. It gives the opportunity because we have no idea where this is going to be in 7 years. What if there's federal legalization that changes things and Coca-Cola wants to come in and do something differently, or the pharmaceutical companies and they're still stuck? Or what if opportunities change? And so it gives the flexibility for chance and choice for the social equity partners, just like anyone else, right? Versus holding them to a special credential that may be better in 7 years, as you note, but may be worse. And so it gives the level of optionality.
And I think I agree with that in terms of giving them that option. How often would you imagine a social equity applicant terminating their partnership if we said 3 years was the rule? After 3 years, they terminate. Where are they going to go? How many options, how many available opportunities for them are there going to be? Who's going to be left without a social equity applicant that they can go to?
So they're still on the cap table, right?
Yeah.
Because the structure of ownership per the licensing phase is that they own on EJVs 50% and on Section 149s, which is 3 years, at least 65%. And so their space in the business via an operating agreement is still held, right? So it's not like saying, oh, you're out, because right, that's corporate law. And so it's not like your partner and it's somebody's job and oh, you have to keep this job and then you're gone. It's really on the ownership cap table side where everyone gets to make their level of decision based on their own ownership. And so that's why we think the change is there. And look, maybe someone says, you know what, I don't want to sell. I love being a part of this. I want to be in it. So if we sell and they find the right agreement with their new partner, they can choose to do either or versus be stuck with somebody, or maybe they stay in and there's an opportunity for distribution and they keep a job and it works. And because it's about choice ultimately and optionality versus forced to stay in, because I don't believe there is a force out from the cap table.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Representative Brown. I've been struggling with this one as well. I think for me, it makes sense to align the length, right? If they're both at 3 years, and that to me is the stronger argument. Like, because with efficient markets, if a price is going to go down in 7 years, then it goes down what you're going to pay now, right?
And
so that's why I didn't know if it necessarily would increase the value to them, but I think that aligning the length and increasing options, I guess, too, in case your choice is to leave.
Right. And also from the 149s, right? So because we have a 149 with our partners and we'll then have equity joint ventures with them. And that's vertical, right? And so the vertical benefit is strong from a tax perspective because you can deduct all of your costs of goods sold from a grow. And so there's economic alignment by being vertical, right? And it only comes from the grow. But in that case, if someone wants to come in and buy the full vertical, the social equity applicant could sell their piece in the grow 149, but they actually couldn't sell the piece in the equity joint ventures that are attached to that grow. And there is language within this bill to fix that. Personally, our partners have been honestly the poster child of that law going wrong because of how we structured it, and they had to give up ownership of entities that they had been licensed on. And so we hope that gets fixed. But in this case, right, like there's literally an alignment of the same ownership in the same business that they could sell one piece and not the other. And so we think the timelines being together is good. What we don't think is that it should be too quick, because then you create sort of the California issue, which was there were folks who were poster children and said, yep, I qualify and then I'm out. But this creates some longevity being a part of it and then optionality with alignment on times.
And just to add to that, we're purely retail. Ben's going to be vertical, right? So from a retail cannabis standpoint, almost every single market will play out that the valuations will go down over time, right? So giving that option and that choice for that shorter time frame for the social equity owner will allow them the opportunity to choose whether they want to capitalize on that higher valuation at that point in time. And that's all our social equity owners are asking, is for really that choice and that optionality. And the intent is to give them control of the business, but this really does the opposite, right? So making sure that it's not just us that get to choose when we want to exit, but do it as a family, right? Our goal is to create this partnership, right? And decide with them, alongside them, that this is either right for them or wrong for them, and be there with them every step of the way.
Thank you. Rep.
I just want to follow up on that 7 years, which I understand where you're coming from. It makes some sense. The reason that provision was put in there was actually protect the social equity applicant from being bought out, right?
Sure.
So what you're telling me, if I understand correctly, is if you decide to sell, they still need to stay within that venture.
Correct. As of now, right? There's
As of
no
now.
restriction on timelines of sale. And but there is for the social equity partner, but not for the non-social equity entity. And just looking at Connecticut's cannabis space,
Right.
of the 18 medical operators and of the 4 original producers, only 3 are not the original license winners. So of the 22 original businesses, 19 have changed hands, including 2 of Fine Fettle's. We bought them from other license winners. One of ours, we won an application in Willimantic, and then the folks in Torrington, and then the guys in New Haven. But everyone else has changed hands because of timelines of market. And so it's sort of part of the realities of our upcoming industry, or up and coming industry, that we don't know where things go and how things happen. And, look, sometimes the opportunity to get the bag is too good. And so people, we want people to be able to do that.
Thank you for that.
Representative Acker.
The more you guys talk, the more questions come to mind. So it's good. So being a business owner myself, I can understand some structure on this. So you have a partner, right? And the 2 of you are partners. Can the social equity partner buy out the investor side after 3 years and be the sole owner?
Conceivably, they can do it right now.
Conceivably, sure.
Right.
Conceivably, they could do it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have we can sell whenever, right? As the non-social equity owner, the social equity owner has to hold for that period of time. So conceivably, if they had the capital at a right valuation to buy us out, we agreed to it, that sale could happen, and they could be 100% owner of the business.
Now flip that.
Yep, that cannot happen until
After 3 years, can you,
7 with the social equity joint ventures.
with your change,
Yes, 3.
with your change, after 3 years, can you become the sole owner?
Again, it would be the same type of deal. We would have to come to a fair market value of the business. They would have to agree to the sale. It's not a forced sale. They would have to agree to the sale. And then obviously, like any other business owner, they have the chance to create that generational wealth for them if that's what they choose to do so, right? So that's kind of how it would be.
So a social equity partner doesn't have to be a partner after that point.
They do not have to be a partner, but it would have to be a sale that was agreed upon like any other business.
Right. As of now, they have to be a social equity partner no matter what with any other partner or by themselves. Some social equity partners don't have ours are equity joint ventures. So they're based from other businesses. And so there generally are partnerships, but yeah, they have to for 7 years, no matter what, stay in it as of right now.
As of now.
As of now.
Thank you. Thank you both.
You're welcome.
Can I follow up?
Representative Candela.
Just a clarification. You mentioned something that caught my attention was, if let's say this stays at the 7 years, you decide to sell, you still have to get the approval of the joint equity partner, correct?
No,
You can just sell?
We could sell
without their
our- we could
consent
sell-
Because it's 50-50.
we could
isn't
sell
it?
our piece. So we could sell our equity in the
So
business.
the cultivation you can sell,
in-
but not the joint venture.
So as of now, we could sell any of it. We could sell the piece of the equity and our ownership in the grow. We could sell our ownership in the EJVs, we could sell our ownership in our medical dispensaries. The social equity partners cannot. So we could sell to them, we could sell to, you know, insert
So
business
just for
here, but they can't.
clarification, isn't the EJV 50/50 owned?
Correct.
So wouldn't you need the equity applicants?
No, because they could buy
After-
our shares in the business. So let's just assume there's 100 shares. We own 50 and our social
they'll
equity
buy the
partners own
shares, okay,
50.
gotcha.
Someone could buy our 50, but
And-
not
you-
their
You don't
50.
need the joint ventures
No.
approval on that.
No.
Okay, thank you.
But being a good partner, we did, we
Ju-
would
just-
offer
just to-
them
Just to
terms.
clarify, I mean, just to reset everybody for a second here though, because this is the subject of a long debate for years and years. And there was a lot of thought given to how long the social equity partners had to retain their ownership interest. And there were other concerns. I appreciate the sort of, cursory concern of, okay, well, it's fungible, they should be able to do what they want with it. But there were a lot of anonymity concerns about, okay, if we let them sell within a year, they're going to get bought out and then we're going to lose the entire social equity population. So I appreciate what you guys are saying, but I think, no offense, I think we need to hear from social equity council and social equity partners directly, not a couple
No,
of rich white guys.
And honestly, we
you know,
agree. Look, we
yeah.
agree.
But again, I just want to reset everybody on this discussion here because I appreciate the sort of,
And
immediate
all-
reaction to it is, and
All of our social equity owners have signed off on this and they were put written testimony.
yeah,
in it, too, just so
I'm sure they have.
Ours as well.
I'm sure they have because believe me, we thought about that, and the reason that was in there was because we knew there would be dollar signs thrown in front of social equity applicants to give us your name, we'll pay you a lot of money in a year, and you'll be out. So there was a lot of thought given to why we were preventing the sale of those licenses on the social equity side when we passed this bill. And I for one, am not willing to unwind that 2 years into a program.
So just out of curiosity, why was the 149 a disconnect with those social equity applicants?
Especially since the 149s
Again-
aren't open.
Again, there's a lot of compromise that had to be done to get this bill passed. And
Okay.
when you start pulling on one thread, you unwind the entire structure that got this together. Okay?
Mhm.
So I appreciate that you guys let's get this market going. I mean, we all want to get this market going, but we can't do that by changing the foundation that it was built on literally 2 years into a program. Other questions from committee members? Yeah.
Point of clarification,
yeah.
if I could. Just thank you, Mr. Chair. Just so I understand, and I get the historical context behind how we got this bill passed, but am I to understand that any person who originally signed up as a social equity applicant had the social equity partner? It's 7 years. If you decided to buy them out, you could be the sole owner of this industry, because that's what we're going to see. I just want to make that very, very clear. That's what's going to happen. The moment we allow people not of color to take over this industry, that's where we're going to run into this problem, because that's what we tried to solve a problem. And we're now creating another one, which is the equity that we thought we were going to get is somehow about to be eroded, not after 7 years, but potentially 3 years. And if the market is going to turn in 4 years after this 3-year deadline, that benefits you all. Your valuation to your applicant devalues, not. So it would be in your best interest if the market goes in the way you think it is to allow that person to stay for 7 years, right? Because their valuation could go down, was what you guys said. It's to make the best benefit to the applicant. It may be better for them to sell in 3 because the market's going to be good in 3, but maybe not in 7.
Maybe.
Potentially.
Right? Maybe. And so
100%. So what I don't want to see, and this is what we all thought was going to happen with this industry, was that everyone's going to partner up with the closest person they can find, partner with them, and then eventually in a year, 2 years, here's a check. And to a partner, someone who's struggling, who's been through what they've been through, when you write them a check like that, they're going to say yes. And that's the problem. I've had a concern, was it 7 years from the very beginning? I felt like my concerns were alleviated a little, but I think it's gotten worse a little bit, because this is not going to be equitable in 7 years. I can promise you that. If we lose half of our ownership, which we will in 7 or 3, it's not going to be equitable anymore.
So I guess the question is, right, no one has to take the option, right? And so the question is, if somebody thinks that 3 years is the better option for them, or 7 years is the better option for them, their operating agreement should give them the opportunity to make that choice, right? And our question is where do they get the opportunity for choice versus forced held ownership? And look, I don't know the right answer exactly, but generally the argument of choice versus being stuck is sort of what I think folks want to understand, because if you know where you stand in 3 years, and you might not know where the industry is in 4 years, right? Sometimes, one in the hand is better than two in the bush, or one in the hand might be better than 0.2 4 years later. But you don't actually know either way. And so it's the question of choice versus enforced action on timelines when others are not held to those timelines. And I don't know the right answer. Yeah. But I think that's a real concern, and not the goals of, I think that's a real concern. And this industry, and Carl and I saying this, right? But this industry should be diverse. And this industry has a long history of problems around Black and brown communities, and the goals, and communities that have been impacted more by the war on drugs. That's why we're placing businesses in disproportionate impact areas. That's why we have social equity plans. That's why we partner with social equity partners, and we can look at it at the full framework. And look, I don't envy you for trying to build something that you don't know what it's going to be in 3 or 7 years. But the goals should be opportunity. The goals should be opportunity, and every other business owner gets that choice.
And just to go on the record, Butter is co-founded by Derek Gibbs. He couldn't be here today because he just had a child 4 days ago. So, or a week ago now, whatever it may be. So he has a new daughter. He is a person of color. We found this together. And we're looking out for the community and want to do it the right way. We're all for social equity and making sure that's done the right way. We're here to, like Ben said, fight for them, to give them the choice and ultimately allow them that optionality. And they're all in agreement with that.
Okay. All right. Having no further questions, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right.